Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It is Friday. We have 9 games on tap on Draftkings tonight for an NBA slate. Washington against Charlotte, New Orleans against Indy, Chicago against Orlando, San Antonio, Toronto, Detroit against Atlanta. And there's a lot of value and stars in that game to talk about. Minnesota, New York, another solid game on the schedule. Clippers, Memphis, Denver, Dallas. You guys know how much I love Luka Doncic. You know how much I love Nikola Jokic. We're going to see who's going to fare better based on the two young European studs tonight. Utah against OKC. So why don't we get into it? First of all, for those of you who are new to the channel, thank you very much for finding this video. If you haven't already, click like on the video, subscribe to the channel, blah, 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 blah. You guys know the drill. 2019. So we're going to get after it. The way that I do these first look videos is I talk about 3 value plays that I like most for this evening of NBA. And I go through all the superstar players and take the 2 that I think are the ones that I really want to roster the most. This is a first look lineup. It is 8 a.m. in the morning. I don't do a full lineup for NBA. There's too many choices to be made. There's too much news that breaks right up until lock. My best advice that I can give you for NBA success in daily fantasy is to be at your workstation for the final 30 to 45 minutes until lock every single day. That is when the most news breaks. That's when you have to be nimble and be ready to pivot to other sources of value. When other studs see their usage rates jump, that's when everything breaks, and that's when you have to be there. To me, the easiest way to keep up with that news, follow the news sources. Every single beat writer on Twitter. If you don't want to do that, follow the aggregators. There's certain Twitter accounts that aggregate all the news and info into one account, and they follow the beat writers, and as soon as news breaks, they send it back out to you. Also, Daily Roto does a fantastic job of sending out emails, not just with the news, but with their reactions to the news on how they think that you should progress throughout the evening, new value that opens up, how they've adjusted minutes on their optimizer. Link down below in the description if you want to go check out Daily Roto with a 10% discount if you use the promo code SMIZLIFE at checkout. So why don't we get right to this slate? It looks fun. There is going to be a lot of money, just like there is every night in NBA. $12 tournament, 400,000 up for grabs, 100K to first. And I could go on like an old man rant real quick. Back in the old days of daily fantasy, we didn't have $400,000 tournaments every single night. We got one a month, and we loved it. Well, this is the new reality. Every single day, $100,000 sitting up top of a daily fantasy tournament during NBA season. I assume MLB also when it gets here. So we got Russ Westbrook. I'm just going to go through all the studs real quick. Russ Westbrook averaging 35 minutes a game, averaging a triple-double on the season. How many straight games with a triple-double is he at right now? More than I can count on my fingers. I'm going to have to use toes. Absolute statistical monster, although against Utah might come up a little bit short this evening. The bonuses on DraftKings make this worthwhile, at least if you want to pay up for Westbrook. I don't think that he's the cash game lock that I want to go with, but I do think that you're going to have enough salary based on the values that are out there. This does look like a stars and scrubs night. Westbrook is somebody that I'm going to have to figure out throughout the day. If I want to go with the values that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, it's going to leave me a lot of salary. I have some decisions to make. Do I want to go with Westbrook, one of the other studs, and then go mid-range past that? Or you could probably fit 3 or 4 of these guys from 8,500 to 10.4 in your lineups today, because there's enough value players out there at 4K and below in order to help you get there. Usually you need 3 value plays to get 2 studs. We definitely have 3 very easy value plays on today's slate, at least where I'm sitting right now at 8 in the morning. Things obviously can change, but value doesn't usually get worse as the day goes on in the NBA. Value gets added as players get injured or sit out, or migraines or personal whatever, or, mental health days or whatever comes up throughout the day when players get rested. Other players' minutes jump up, and as always, minutes equals money. Paul George, the running mate, on the same ticket as Russ Westbrook, just pouring buckets in this year. The problem is, I'm not expecting games like this where he gets anywhere close to a triple double. The scoring is going to remain consistent. He's getting enough shots And as I've said on every video that I've ever done, the highest correlation between real life basketball and fantasy scoring is actually putting the basketball in the net. Number 2 is minutes played. So if you get a guy who basically plays 35 plus minutes a night and shoots the ball 20 plus times to 30 times a night every single night, you're going to have a tremendous statistical output. The problem is his range. You see his average points per game at 51.5. His range, I mean, 88.5 isn't really his range. His range is kind of small, right? His range goes from like 45, because he's going to score his 28 to 32 points, probably to about 65. So you've got a 20-point range on this player at 10.8, and not as much chance at a double-double, as he's done it 4 times now in his last 10 games, as he has performed in his last 10 games, in my opinion. This is not a double-double waiting to happen all the time. It's definitely not a triple-double waiting to happen. I want more double-double assurance if I'm going to spend 10K on a player. I do think that I want to have shares of him in a tournament, but Karl Anthony Towns probably my number 1 guy. Going against New York in Madison Square Garden, I think that we have the possibility for massive upside here. Double-double, more than likely. Steals and blocks give him the opportunity for a massive ceiling. You're going to get the minutes, you're going to get the shots, you're going to get the looks. You have tons of rebounds out there to be had, and New York kind of soft. You know, they have a nice jelly-filled center. Nikola Jokic, tough matchup against Dallas, but of all the centers, who gives you a chance to triple-double more than Nikola every single night? We've talked about this basically for 2 years. I've made comparisons with Jokic for the first 3-4 years of his career, the first 3-4 years of Cousins' career, and he compares very favorably. I'm not saying that he's going to blossom in the way that Cousins blossomed in his mid-20s, but if he does, we're talking about an all-time great player here with the well-rounded skill set that Nikola Jokic has. Now, for this evening, you know what you're going to get. We get a consistent line from him pretty much every single night. 36 minutes, 36 minutes, 35 minutes, 34 minutes. You know what you're getting when you roster Nikola. Now, we do have upside if he does happen to triple-double. What we rarely get is this 30-plus point output from him. And I don't know that it's on tap tonight, but we might see it. Again, somebody I want to have shares of in tournaments. And the way that I run tournaments, when I'm building allocations for 150 lineups, and if you have never looked at that video that I talked about on how to build 150 lineups with an optimizer, go check that video out. It's not just about hitting optimize and doing whatever the optimizer says. You have to plug different things in there to make it dance the way that you want and based on your philosophies. And I try to get allocations of as many of the stud players as I can. I'm not going to be able to have all of them, obviously. I have to make my choices on which ones I have, and I put them in tiers. Make sure you put those in groups. Make sure that every lineup has at least one of these guys, or at most 2 of these guys, to get yourselves through. Vucevic has had a tremendous season and has a good matchup with Chicago. Kawhi Leonard, absolute stud, but inconsistent in terms of fantasy scoring. Is this going to be a revenge game for him? Does Kawhi Leonard have the emotions in him for a narrative street type revenge game? Is that something that he has ever been interested in? Is that something that he has ever been the type of guy to actually go after? He seems kind of stoic. You've seen the gif of him laughing. I don't know that he's the dude that I want on my roster because, well, it's a revenge game, but it's going to be in everybody's minds and on the tip of everybody's tongues that's producing content today is that this is a revenge game for Kawhi Leonard against Pop, against San Antonio. Does he have the emotions to have it, or is he just kind of robotic and not going to really play into that? Luka Doncic, the other player that I really want to have a lot of shares of this evening. This kid's just going to keep getting better in the second half of the season, to me, in terms of every game that he plays, every week that he plays, every month that he plays. I'm expecting him to get better in terms of efficiency, which is typically what you see from young players, especially young guards. Those first few months, he was putting up tremendous stats, but was not being exceptionally efficient. He was more efficient in the first half of his rookie season than like other great guards like LeBron James or wings like LeBron James. If you compare their rookie seasons, I expect him to get more efficient as time goes on, which only is going to improve his fantasy output considering the amount of usage that he gets, the amount of run that he gets in terms of minutes played, the amount of shots and how important he is to this offense. And we already see the volume that he gets from beyond the 3-point arc, getting 9, 9, and 9 and 7 shots in his last 4 games. Against Denver, good play, good team, but on the perimeter, not yet there defensively in terms of locking down opposing guards. I don't know that you can lock down a player like Luka. He's going to be out there. He's going to be increasingly efficient as the season goes on, and this is a game where I think, based on the high-scoring nature of tonight's game, that he's another guy that I want to plug in. And like I said, you could go 2 5-figure guys in your lineup. To me, it looks like it's coming down to Towns, and to me, it looks like it's coming down to, where did he go? Luka. We can move Karl Anthony back up in here, save that utility spot for later, but then we got to find some value plays to make this happen for us. And there's 3 value plays that I think stand out kind of above the rest. One, Joakim Noah at 3,800, way too cheap. He's listed as probable for tonight's game, even though the tag says questionable up on top. Depending on how you rank, depending on how you project his minutes for tonight, is going to determine whether you believe that Joakim Noah is a excellent value or a subpar value. I'm on the side that he's going to play 23 or more minutes this evening based on who is available for the Memphis Grizzlies. If he plays 23 or more minutes, I believe that he exceeds his value threshold for that salary at 3,800. And if you project him for 18 or 19 minutes, then obviously you're going to say that he doesn't. To me, I believe that he is a great value play tonight. I'm fine at plugging him in there. And then always the question, should you base less or should you base more? I want Kent Bazemore in there at 4,200. We know that, as I've said before, scoring a big part of fantasy production, and Bazemore's greatest thing that he can give you is the ability to score the basketball. He's not really going to be a playmaker. He's not going to get assists. He's not a great defender, even though he can contribute with steals and blocks because of his athleticism. Really, where he's going to help you out is, as an NBA team, is putting the ball in the basket. 14 shots his last game. We've seen him get as many as 12. This is not a high value reach. You do get positional flexibility with shooting guard and small forward eligibility. To me, he's my secondary value. And my final one right here, DeAndre Bembry. Same thing for Atlanta, 3,300. Expecting more consistent minutes out of him. This one is a bit of a reach, but I think that he's a solid play. Again, shooting guard, small forward eligibility, allowing you to put him in that shooting guard, small forward, guard, or forward spot, 4 spots so you can fit him in. There's a ton of value out there on the board today, and there will probably be more by the time lineups lock this evening. So those are my 3 value plays. Those are the 2 studs that I want to plug in. We have an average remaining salary of 6,400. You can fit 3 studs in tonight's lineup. If you don't like the 3 value plays, there's other ones out there. These are the 3 that I've highlighted this morning that I'm going to pay attention to throughout the day. And if other value opens that's more palatable, just like last night when I had plugged Boban as my #1 value of the day, people were worried that the other center was going to be the one who started for Philly. And then once Boban became the starter, you knew that you had to plug Boban in there and get as much as you could. Always plug your dummy lineups in, right? So this is where I'm going to start with my lineups today. But if news changes by the time lineups lock, you have to stay nimble. You have to give yourself the possibility to switch off. Don't say to yourself, well, I've been on this guy this morning, so I have to stay on this guy all the way through lineups lock, no matter what news happens. I'm closing my ears. La 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 la. No, you can't play NBA that way. You have to be nimble. You have to be ready to switch on a dime. If you haven't checked out that video on how to use an optimizer to edit your lineups, to create lineups and everything else, go check that out. If you don't use an optimizer and you play by hand, that's fine too. I produced a video that was how to win in daily fantasy basketball, looking at all the things that I talk about on all these videos, a little bit more in depth on lineup building strategies and what I'm looking at on a day-to-day basis to be successful over my entire career as a daily fantasy player and content creator. Things that have helped me, and I hope that they help you as well. If you guys have liked this video, please smash that like button. I appreciate you being here. I'll be back next week. Have yourselves a good weekend and good luck in tonight's tournament. Bye, guys.